Good morning and welcome to Rising. I'm Spencer Brown, filling in for Amber Duke, and I'm joined remotely this Friday by Jessica Burbank. Jessica, happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Always good when we have a Spencer Jess show. It's a fun way to switch up on Fridays.
It is, and it gets me ready for the weekend. Have a little bit, hopefully, more lighthearted news for you all today. Speaking of which, we have some developing major news that came in late last night. Hunter Biden has been indicted in California on 9 additional charges related to tax fraud. President's son now faces 3 felony charges in relation to tax evasion and filing a false return, as well as 6 misdemeanor charges for failure to pay taxes between 2016 and 2019. Now, according to prosecutors, Hunter Biden engaged in a 4-year scheme in which he chose not to pay at least $1.4 million in self-assessed federal taxes he owed for 2016 through 2019, and to evade the assessment of taxes for tax year 2018 when he filed false returns. Prosecutors say between 2016 and 2020, Hunter earned $7 million. However, quote, the defendant spent this money on drugs, escorts, and girlfriends, luxury hotels and rental properties, exotic cars, clothing, and other items of a personal nature. In short, he paid everything but his taxes. Now, Biden is already facing gun charges in Delaware.
IRS whistleblowers Gary Schlafly and Joseph Ziegler released a statement last night in which they declared the new charges against the younger Biden to be, quote, complete vindication. For their testimony, in case you forgot, they testified that the tax investigation into Hunter was hamstrung for a number of years by the DOJ, despite wide agreement among prosecutors that crimes were committed. House Republicans, however, seem unsatisfied with the latest charges against Hunter Biden. Oversight Committee Leader James Comer told Menu Raju this morning that the charges don't go far enough. Quote, unless U.S. Attorney General Weiss, unless U.S. Attorney Weiss investigates everyone included in the Biden's fraud schemes and influence peddling, it will be clear that President Biden's DOJ is protecting Hunter Biden and the big guy. On the other side of things, Hunter Biden's attorney released a statement last night decrying the new charges as politically motivated. Quote, if Hunter's last name was anything other than Biden, the charges in Delaware, now California, would not have been brought. Now, I think it's a bit of bittersweet irony for me, Spencer, that we have Hunter Biden being investigated by the IRS for unpaid taxes when you have an all-on assault against the funding that has gone to the IRS thanks to the Democrats. They're trying to get rid of that funding, allocating the money to Israel and Ukraine. Instead, it seems that that's the only money they would be happy Democrats touch unless they do something about immigration. Then they would open up other funds. Very funny that the same people that do not want a bunch of money going to IRS agents have now gotten Hunter Biden on IRS charges. Another facet to this that I find kind of hilarious is that Hunter Biden wrote about how some of this money was spent himself. I'm just imagining him getting indicted. And he's like, what is this for? What is this about? And they're like, well, we know that you spent money that you've earned that you should have paid in taxes on various criminal things that you wrote about in your memoir. And he's just like, oh, that's so nice that you guys read my memoir. That's so kind of you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is interesting. It sort of speaks to how, completely impenetrable he thought he was as a Biden, that nobody would come after him, even after he published basically just a narrative with dates and time frames in which he was doing all this illegal activity. Part of it, the gun charges that he's facing are because he said he was not addicted to or using drugs, when in his book he said that during that time frame he was in fact smoking a ton of crack, and that was around the same time, he was so addicted that he ended up smoking Parmesan cheese on a few instances. And it's insane that he thought he could put all this in a book and somehow still be immune to any sort of punishment for it. And I think if you look at the broken out sort of what he failed to report to the IRS, his expenses and his income, there were a number of things, and he spent more on both, quote, various women and on adult entertainment than he spent on legal fees, which I think is sort of a cautionary tale that at any point, if you find yourself spending more on various women and adult entertainment than you are on legal fees, you're probably, again, acting like you're just going to be able to do what you want and completely get away with it and face no real penalties. And I thought his attorney's statement was interesting because he's talking about how, if his name was anything other than Biden, he wouldn't be charged. But it's exactly the fact that his last name is Biden that he got away with so much for so long and was able to just act and publish books and continue this lifestyle expecting that he would never actually face accountability for it. And so, obviously his attorney is scrambling, trying to come up with a reason for why this is happening. But like you said, Hunter Biden made it pretty easy when he just sort of published his confession and is probably very grateful, as you said, that the FBI and the IRS read his book.
Yes, absolutely. Another reader. But now he could, perjure himself in court with the memoir. He's either the book contains lies and he's not guilty, or he's guilty and the memoir is true. And as a human being, what an interesting position to be in, to have to refute your own memoir to be innocent in a criminal case. Absolutely absurd. We also got additional confirmation of something that was widely reported for quite some time, that the Burisma salary was cut in half just 2 months after Joe Biden was no longer serving in the White House as vice president. So we know that there was something interesting going on with the proximity that Hunter Biden had to the presidency when he was serving on the board of Burisma, the Ukrainian energy company. He was apparently earning $1 million a year, and that was cut in half to $500,000 a year just 2 months into the Trump presidency. And so when you have statements coming from Republicans like, well, it smells like fraud, or it smells like collusion, so it's probably collusion. It smells like corruption, so it probably is. That kind of a change in the amount of money you're getting on a monthly basis when your father gets out of office in the White House, that signals to me something that I've said for quite some time, and it's that we need more precautions taken by members of Congress, more legislation written, so that we don't have this kind of corruption at the highest level in the United States. But very interesting that that's becoming a part of this conversation. Again, it's not just news about the IRS indictment into Hunter Biden. We now have additional confirmation about his income from Burisma.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a good point. And like you said, it's one of those things where if the Biden brand, everything that the Republicans have been alleging is basically that Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and James Biden were all kind of in this cabal, peddling the influence and the proximity they had to power. And obviously, once Joe Biden was no longer in office, and not only that, but Donald Trump was then in office, Joe Biden had no power to do really anything within the government. And so it's unsurprising to see, that Hunter Biden took a pay cut, because all of a sudden, why were any of these companies or foreign governments trying to keep him happy and stay close to him? Because he had basically as much power as Barack Obama did after leaving office, which was none, because there wasn't a Democrat administration that continued. Joe Biden wasn't in the White House, and that definitely, is a hit to their business model, which was peddling power. I do think one thing that's going to be interesting with this is if these charges now change anything in Hunter Biden's calculus about testifying or doing an interview with House oversight Republicans, because again, now he sort of has a basis to potentially take the Fifth Amendment and say, well, I'm under indictment, I've been charged in these things, I can't talk to you, I'm taking the Fifth, which would obviously throw a wrench in what House Republicans have been trying to do in getting him to sit down for a transcribed interview, to do a deposition with him, and then eventually, theoretically, to have him testify publicly in that committee. And it will be interesting to see if he tries to use this as a way to get out of that, because obviously he's been trying to resist sort of setting his own rules for how he's going to cooperate, quote unquote cooperate, with House Republicans. And it's something else that we will have to continue to follow, which we definitely will hear, and we will have more Rising coming up right after this.